everybody, welcome to the sewing room. This is Sewjourns and my name is Chris. Today I have a brand new pattern release for you. I always love to share those. It's from Love Notions and it has a few options and I'm loving this pattern. I'm going to tell you all about it, as well as, have you heard about sewing with projectors? I'm going to be sharing with you some tricks, some tips, and things I do when I sew with the projector file. Welcome to Sewjourns. Let's journey into sewing. Okay, before we get started with the Breckenridge Henley, I just want to welcome everybody back, and I want to give a special shout out to all the new subscribers. My channel has been growing and you've been growing with me, so thank you. I appreciate all of my subscribers from subscriber 1 until now. And I think a lot of you have come over, visit me, and subscribe to my channel during the video collaboration I did with Karina at Pins and Needles. That was terrific. You might want to check that video out. We did a collaboration video last week. So welcome. Thank you for being here. That was fun. We're going to do that again, I'm sure. So let's get into it. The Breckenridge Henley by Love Notions. And it is for knit fabrics. And of course, with the Love Notions patterns, you're going to get your full range of sizes. That is extra small to 5X. You get the standard bust piece or the full bust piece. And I know that we really love that. I utilize the full bust piece. It really makes sewing this Henley super quick. And it's a really satisfying sew. As you can see, the Henley has a placket. This is different because you might have seen Henleys where it's a round neck and then the buttons come down this way. This is a unique, pretty curved placket. And don't worry if you're not a fan of buttonholes on knits, they're not necessary. These buttons are sewn just right through the placket. That's what holds it in place. You certainly can do traditional buttonholes. And I have a tutorial that can help you. In one of my previous videos, I went over using your automatic buttonhole foot on your sewing machine, and I'll link that in the description box. You will find in the tutorial of the pattern a link that will take you to YouTube, where Tammy has done a video tutorial on constructing the placket. So you can follow right along so you too can get a perfect placket. Down in the description box will be my affiliate link for this pattern. So if you want to support me, thank you so much. It's a great way. You can just use that affiliate link to purchase the pattern at no additional cost to you. That will go to the link to the pattern that's on sale. It's always on a new release sale for a week. I think you're really going to enjoy this pattern for the upcoming colder months and beyond, because there's a short sleeve version. The Breckenridge Henley is for knit fabrics, and I've made them in various knits. The knit that I'm wearing now is a sweater knit, and I'll link that in the bottom where I purchased the sweater knit. And the placket, the band, and this little tab here, this is French terry. It's a rayon French terry, so it has a good amount of stretch, and it's a denim look. So I like that look. This looks spectacular with jeans or with a denim skirt, so many things. This particular version, this is one of your options, is the rolled tab length of sleeve. So it hits you about 3/4 length. There's a button sewn into the tab, but this is also a long sleeve. So if I were to unbutton this and I just roll down this sleeve, this is a hemmed sleeve. I'll roll down this sleeve. I now have a long sleeve, and it's a cute little button detail. It matches the buttons here. So you can wear it either way, the long sleeve or the rolled tab. It's fun to have options. There's also a short sleeve, which I made in pre-testing, and that's great so you can wear this Henley all year round depending on your fabric choice. There's also the long sleeve with the long cuff. I love the opportunity to match the placket with the cuff. That just looks spectacular. This one is French terry, and the cuff and the band is made from modal. Gosh, I love modal. It seems like everything I'm sewing these days is in modal. I styled this Henley with my Resolution bottom leggings with the Moto hack, and I'll show you pictures of that. And here I have the similar style, but in the dress version. I love the dress version. I'm going to be showing you pictures of me in the dress version with my boots. This snake print is sweater knit. It is oh so soft, and it's kind of on the lighter side. So I can wear this now and be very comfortable. And I love the coordinating cuff. I was remarking to some of the testers that it took me longer to decide on the color of the buttons for all three of my Henleys than it did to sew up the pattern. I think what I have on there, 4 on there, maybe 5 on here, 6 if they're small buttons. The Henley looks great over the Oakley vest, so there's another opportunity. So I think you can tell that I'm really happy with this pattern since I made all the versions in all of my different knits. And I still have some lovely, gorgeous rib knit. I'm sure I'll wear beautiful Breckenridge Henleys. So now let's get into our Sew You Can tip for the day. Have you heard about sewing with projectors? Sewing with projectors is pretty new, but it is really taking off. And many of the PDF pattern companies are now including a projector file. But sewing with projectors is a new thing. And I just recently bought a projector. And my spectacular husband spent a long time researching it because there's a lot to know, and I'm not going to get into all of that. I encourage you to join the Projectors for Sewing group on Facebook. It's a myriad of information, and I'll link that in the description box for you. So let's get into your Sew You Can tip. I'm going to show you how I cut out my Henley with the projector. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks about how to blend, how to mark, because you may be choosing more than one size. I am not one size. Most of us are not. I'll choose a size for my upper bust, which is how we do with Love Notions. We fit the shoulders and the chest beautifully, and then we blend in or out for the rest of the pattern to get your fit. I'm going to show you how I do that, how I mark my neckline, and how it works a little bit for adjusting height. You can adjust height just using the projector. You know how you'll cut and slash a pattern? So you would need to maybe trace that and do it on paper. You can do it using your projector. So I'm excited to show you those little tips and tricks. So let's get into it. Sew You Can, Breckenridge Henley with projectors. I'm going to give you a couple tips today on sewing with projector files. There's a lot to know and there's a lot to research before you decide which projector is right for you, depending on where you're going to mount it, depending on the size of your cutting table. There's lots of variables. So I encourage you to join the Projectors for Sewing group on Facebook. My husband spent a good deal of time up on a ladder till we got that just right. My projector, my setup, my throw, I project my images at 24.7%, and that is spot on for me. All of my Love Notions patterns are projected at 24.7. I have tried this with other patterns. It is the same and it is consistent, but from pattern company to pattern company, I always double check. The projector file usually shows up better on a printed fabric when you're doing the reverse. So as long as you're okay with the placement of the pattern, and you can do it on the reverse side, and you can see how well this shows up. And I have my overhead light on. If I turn that overhead light off, you can even see it brighter. And here I have projected several sizes. I can go over to my computer and I can turn off those sizes and just have one size if I want to double check my markings or to mark my markings. And now I can just go ahead with my rotary cutter and I can cut out my pattern. I do blend sizes for my hips, so I'll turn back on one more size. I've turned back on the additional size, so now I can take my rotary cutter and my French curve, and I can follow along where I want to blend that from about the waist down to the hemline into the next size. And then I'll turn it off again to mark my shoulder markings, because that is the smaller size. Here I have the back of our Breckenridge Henley that I'm going to cut out. And I just wanted to show you that this piece also gets cut on the fold. And so what we do with our projector file is that we line up the fold with a line on our grid mat just to make sure that the fold is being cut straight, that we are straight of grain here. So here I have cut for the back of the neckline, the shoulders, and the arm side. And I'll continue down to about the waist where I'll begin to then blend to the larger size for my hips. At that point, I will turn back on the additional size layers. But for now, what I want to do is mark with my tailor's chalk those notches for the shoulder, for the band, for the back. I want to mark those first while I have that upper neckline layer by itself. So I'll just take my tailor's chalk and I will mark. This is a mark for the band and for the shoulder. This is our double mark to indicate the back. And then I will just turn this over here and mark this side. This is cut on the fold. Mark the shoulder the same way. And the same way. And now I'll go back and turn on those layers to continue blending to my hip size. Now I'm getting ready to cut out my sleeves. The sleeves are cut mirror images. And there's several ways you can do this, of course. I only need one size for my sleeve, so I've turned off the other layers, and I'm using the sleeve that coincides with the arm side that I've chosen. In order to save fabric or get the most use out of my fabric, I'm going to cut my sleeves in one layer, and I'm going to show you how to do that with the projector file. So here I have the fabric up, and I'll cut the sleeve, making sure I mark the front, the back, and the shoulder points. For the next sleeve, I will turn my fabric over. I had cut the front and back of my pattern folded because they were cut on the fold. So I don't have enough width left at certain points on my fabric to cut my fabric folded over and cut mirror images that way. So this is a great way to do it. So I'll cut this, then I'll turn my fabric over and cut the other sleeve. That way I'll have mirror images. Now I'm getting ready to cut the second sleeve, and as you see, I've turned my fabric over to the wrong side, and I'll cut out my second sleeve, and then I'll have mirror images. So how do you make height adjustments on a projector file? So what I'm going to do is I've laid my quilting ruler at the 1 inch mark, and I've drawn a line, a chalk mark here, but you don't have to do that if you're using the printed side of the fabric. Just your quilting ruler will be fine. Then I'm going to move on my computer, I'm just going to use the slide bar and move the projected image over to the 1 inch mark here, and then I'll continue cutting that. So I'm at my computer, and I'm just going to move that image, that line, until I get, if I had a mouse, it would be easier. I would put my mouse on. There we go. And now I would continue cutting it, and I've added an inch length. Conversely, if you want to shorten your pattern, you would do the same thing, but just move it in the opposite direction. So here I have the file for the Breckenridge Henley up on my computer. And I just want to show you a couple things here on the computer. So at the top here is that 24.7% I was talking about. That, of course, is the percentage I need to project for my particular projector, the height at which I have it mounted, etc. Then over here, you have your layers function, just like you normally do, but there's an additional layer down here called the 1 inch grid. So after you get your 1 inch grid exactly calibrated, you can then turn that off. So you just click that layer and turn it off. And then you can come and minimize that window, get rid of that window, get rid of that sidebar. Now, we have here the dress and tunic front. But the cut on the fold, which is here, I really want closer to me when I'm cutting. So I'm going to go up here to view, and I'm going to rotate that view until I get that the way I want it to cut. Now I have it the place that I want. Come here to the slide bar, and I'm going to bring it all the way down here so that when I did project it onto my mat, it's closer to me, just for ease of cutting. So you can change the view, and that's really helpful, especially when you're doing the band. Cut it the way you want your fabric laid out, and then you will just scroll up for whatever pattern piece you want. That's the standard bust. That's the back. This one is the front, and then down here you can slide over to get the rest of the pieces that you want. So here's the band I was talking about. So I'll slide up here. I like to have my fold cuts very close to my body, so where I'm cutting. So my fabric will be laid out here, and I'll cut the band. Now, you only need one size projected for the band because it's just going around the neckline. So I'll take that off. That's my band size. But suppose I had my table laid out a different way. My table is laid out this way. If I had my table laid out this way, I can come up to view, and I can rotate that so that my band is now horizontally. And I can move it closer to me if I want, or down further. And then at any time, again, you need to check your grid. Come back over here to the layers function. Check your grid. When you're all done, you'll check the projector. You'll change the size up here. Maybe you need to project at 25%. You'll check it against your mat. But mine is always, and I just write it in because mine is 24.7. And I'm doing this in the dark, so I don't know if that, nope, I can't see it here because I have my lights off so you can see it, but you just write it in there. And then again, make sure you close this window so that you get your full projected image on your cutting board. And that won't fit that way, so I'll just change the view one more time. And maybe I want to cut the short sleeve, so I want to slide that over to wherever I want it on my cutting mat, get the full image, and I'm all set to go. So if you have a projector for sewing, I hope that you found those tips helpful, or maybe you're considering getting a projector. There's a lot to think about. Having the projector file is great. I just plug in my HDMI cable and it is projected. It is ready for me to cut. It really makes the process a lot faster. And I do like the idea of saving the planet and not wasting so much paper, ink, and tape. I'm happy to answer whatever questions you might have on that if I can. Just in the comments, you can ask those questions. Thank you for joining me for this pattern review on the new Breckenridge Henley, which, if you can't tell by now, I'm really smitten with. I love the fit, I love the style, I love the ease, I love it's such a quick sew. I think this is going to be a really popular pattern. So join me next week when we're back in the sewing room with another fabulous pattern or a trick, tip, tutorial. If there's anything that you'd like to see on this channel, anything you'd like for me to go over, any kind of technique, I love to read your thoughtful comments. I love to read your suggestions on things you want to see on this channel. Please leave me a comment and I'll be sure to check that out and give you a reply. Thank you again. Happy sewing.